Welcome, everyone, to this edition of Talented Universe on this September 15th of 2024. First, I would like to introduce my hosts, I should say, because I'm going to have Jag introduce our wonderful guest today. Marcia, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing great. I'm excited to be here. And I want to let you know I'm missing football and Mets baseball to be here because I want to talk to James DeLorean.
That's a big sacrifice for Marcia, I guarantee.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Jag, how are you doing today?
I'm doing incredibly great, and now have this awesome opportunity to speak to the genius behind episode 9 of the Ark.
Oh, that is
And
so
if
true.
if you want,
Wow.
I'll start the introduction. This is Mr. James DeLorean, and let's just let you know that you're a pleasant name to announce because some of the names we've had in the past kind of a little difficult. But welcome, sir. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Yeah, glad to be here. Happy to be here.
All right, Michael, do you want to start?
Yeah, I'm going to start, and let's see what we've got. Oh, yeah, let's see. We've got some chat room chatter. We have from ARC54, good afternoon. From the Arcaholics, quick question. When will we get to see Becoming Chris Hemsworth? I love that you wrote the draft of an 86 Max.
On an 86 Mac Plus.
Really hope the world will get to see this story. She likes to do research.
Yes.
That is very nice. So your guess is as good as mine. Yeah. So, I mean, it's pretty common with, especially, I mean, with any writer to write samples, like staffing samples. And Becoming Chris Hemsworth, I started writing it, I think, between season 1 and season 2, and like kind of, I can't remember if I think I like wrote most of it outside of the window of the strike because I was fortunate enough to work during the strike. But yeah, it's just kind of like a totally crazy town sample pilot that was kind of designed to be as nuts as possible. And yeah, we'll see if someone picked it. I will say, like, to be realistic, a lower level writer or a low level writer, or what we call in the industry a baby writer, middle-aged baby writer, it's very uncommon to sell a pilot and get it made for someone that doesn't have seniority in the writer's room, especially because the person that created the show, a lot of the time, I mean, there have been some horror stories where someone has given a show before they've really gone through climbing up the ladder and learning how to actually run a show. The way that Jonathan Glassner is like, he's a genius. He knows how to do everything and nothing flusters him. And he knows exactly what needs to be done on the ground and in post-production and everything. I am not dumb enough to pretend to know how to do that. So that's kind of a bit of an obstacle in trying to sell anything. So for me, I think the most realistic expectation is maybe a rep will read the script, like a manager or an agent, and they'll decide to go to bat for me or represent me, or maybe it'll get me a job. That's like kind of the best case realistic scenario. There are outlier scenarios that happen or exceptions, but like, yeah, most of the time they've like had a lot of writing credits by the time they sell a show. And part of the reason for that too is probably they know how to write a pilot a lot better than someone that hasn't done it for a long time. I mean, I will say between season 1 and season 2, I mean, before season 1, I thought I was a pretty good writer. And then I got into our writer's room. I had never worked in a professional writer's room before. And I was blown away by how much everyone understood structure and act breaks. And it became immediately apparent to me that the industry is so competitive that anybody that's working professionally is just an absolute genius. And it became clear to me right away that I had so much to learn. And I learned a lot in season 1. And then season 2 starts. I'm like, I'm much better than season 1 because of listening to these very smart people all day, all the time. And then it became apparent to me in season 2, I still had a lot to learn. So there's always each time you work on a show, you just like, you level up just because everyone else is so much smarter than you. And you constantly are like getting little nuggets of information and like tricks and stuff. And and our writer's room this year was absolutely incredible. And the reason that episode 9 was so good was because it was broken by the group. I mean, I had like little involvement, to be honest, in the breaking of the story. And then it was just like, hey, James, all these cards are on the whiteboard. Now go, this is going to be your episode. Go write the episode now.
Wow.
That is incredible. We've got some people just saying hi to you, so I'm just going to throw those up quick. Elizabeth Bowman says, hi again, everyone. Welcome, James.
Hi.
Olivia Cooper says the ARC fan group is on deck.
Thank you.
Absolutely amazing episode. I'm going to steal all the thunder from Jag. I mean, this episode 9, I have actually had calls from friends that know we do this tough, and one of my friends told me yesterday, he said, episode 9 was the best episode so far, even from season 1 and season 2. He said, this was the best written, best acted, best everything. And I mean, I totally agree with that. We're scared to death. We've told 10 might be even wilder, but anyway, but 9, kudos to you. I know you're not giving yourself much credit, but look, I know you have something on a board that says this will happen, this will happen.
Mm-hmm.
You wrote it to make it make sense. I mean, that is a feat, and that's all I'm going to say and about that. But I mean, it takes a lot of, I'm going to say, genius to be able to put that together from just an outline.
It's I mean, thank you very much. That's very, very kind. I will deflect again and say that the response, the reaction that we've gotten to this episode is a little overwhelming. And I mean, but again, it's, you know, it was a group effort, and it's always a group effort. And but the response is just kind of beyond anything I expected. It's a little surreal. It seems like people are really fired up, really emotional, and just very complimentary. I mean, it's kind of wild. It's very strange and wild, but yeah, I mean, it's very exciting too.
I bet, Marcia, do you want to
sure.
go ahead? And
I'd love to jump in.
I figured you might. Yeah.
I'll love to jump into the love fest for this episode, which at first it wasn't a love fest. Let me tell you that. It was a gut punch to the solar plexus. And and that's a testament to, I was listening to what you were saying about the genius of the creators of the show. And also I see that a part of their genius lies in picking the right writer for the right episode. So you were the man for this. You were the person. And
honestly, I'm shocked that they gave me this episode to write. I mean, it's kind of a testament to Jonathan and Dean as well, where I'm not sure. To me, it seems a little crazy to give an untested writer this episode. And I knew that there was a lot of pressure to get it right, but Jonathan also did a lot to set me up for success. And both him and, I mean, all the writers, but especially Jonathan and JP really went out of their way in a way that was probably, I think, uncommon in terms of saying like, oh yeah, here's like a little something you could do here, and this, you could trim this and that. And I got writing the episode was like kind of like a grad school crash course. It was just like, oh my God, like I have to go back and rewrite all my pilots that I already have now because I learned so much doing this script. And I got so much brilliant instruction. I mean, kind of beyond anything that everyone really went above and beyond to help me succeed, and also to make sure that I learned a lot while I was doing it, so that I would be ready for the next step. And it was, I got really lucky.
Mm-hmm. And sci-fi fans don't play, so
Yeah.
so you brought it, and we're discussing it. I created and run the ARC series fan group on Facebook.
Thank
and
you.
we have
Bless you.
we have different areas where we discuss parts of the show, and we have a what we call the Comet Water Cafe, where we can go and discuss and throw anything in there, and we are just full of emotion and feelings. And when you're here helping us to understand the episode is going to help, and we're going to run back and talk about it some more after this. But so when you found out that you were going to write this episode, was and what it meant, what kind of were you feeling as somebody who had been in the writers' room since season 1?
So they kind of surprised me. Like there was some, we had broken, I think 3 or 4 other episodes. Maybe I can't remember if this was the 4th one or the 5th one. And we had broken some episodes, and then we started breaking another one before everyone was supposed to go off and write. And I had asked Jonathan, I was like, is there a possibility of me getting a freelance this season? And he was like, no promises, but I think so. So I wasn't pushing it because I didn't want to overstep or seem entitled or overzealous or anything. But we started breaking this episode, and I was like, I wonder if this is going to be the one. But no one said anything to me. And I was like, just going about my day. And then one day I think we had just about finished breaking the episode, and we had gone through the cards again. And it was like pretty much we had all the beats for the story there. And lunch came in, and it was like sandwiches or something. And I went to go wash my hands before we ate. And then I came back in, and then Jonathan had already told all the other writers. And it's like, hey, James, we have some news for you. And I was like, yes. And he was like, this is going to be your episode. All I could say was, I just started smiling like an idiot and saying, wow, whoa. And then we all like broke and took a walk, because we liked to take a walk at lunch, because I feel like the room that we were in at the time didn't have windows, and people just wanted to go stretch their legs and stuff. And then when I was on that walk, I like started crying out on the sidewalk, because it hit me. I was like, oh my God, this is so generous. And it's just, it was very, it's just kind of a hard thing to accept when you want something for a really, really, really long time. And then it happens. And of course it's exciting, but you're kind of so used to pursuing that thing. It's just a very, but I was so grateful. And, I sent Jonathan like probably 4 different emails profusely thanking him. And at the end of the day, I sent him a thank you. And I was like, I'm sorry I couldn't thank you adequately in person for allowing me to do this, but you just made my year, and truly, I was like, this was like such a huge thing for me. I mean, and to be able to go home and tell my wife, I finally am going to get to write an episode of television. It was like, okay, we're going to In-N-Out tonight. It's
big spender, yeah.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. Back to you, Michael.
Yeah, Jag, I'm sure you've got some fun things.
Well, number 1, congratulations. Number 2, from all the fans, curse you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I've gotten some angry tweets.
I was gonna say another word, but I'm just gonna say curse you, just to keep this family kindly there. So I'm gonna go into a little bit more, but I know you're excited. But describe how it felt to see your name on the credits.
Yeah, I mean, I know you saw my tweets and stuff about it.
Oh
but
yeah.
it was one of my friends. I have a lot of friends that still work at Electric at the office, and they were doing a playback of it. And maybe a couple of months ago, my friend was in the screening room at Electric, which used to be the recording studio where the Doors tracked a bunch of stuff.
Oh,
Gene
nice.
always loves to tell people that was in the building. So I was like, yeah, the Doors were in here. This is where they rocked out. But I got a picture of the frame with my name on it, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is really something. Because the whole time I've lived in Los Angeles, which has been like 12 years or something, I wanted to do like a restaurant where I get my first credit framed and then like put it over my doorway.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'm finally gonna get to be able to do that. But seeing it on the screen was awesome and really exciting. And yeah, it did make it feel like a little more like, whoa, this is like, it's a little more real now.
This is for real. So this is your first major script for a television show, and I'm sure you were nervous and everything. How much time were you given to write it?
So I think they gave me more, and it was intentional because I think for a couple of reasons. They gave me, well, Jonathan always tells people with almost every script, give it to me when it's ready. But you're like, okay, but when does it really need to be ready? And then he'll like be like, well, ideally, like in a week or something. And I had the same conversation with him, and he gave me a little more time than the other writers. Like maybe it was like 2 to 3 weeks, like, which was very generous. I mean, like I know in your interview with India, she talked about how she wrote a script leading up to the strike deadline in like 24 hours. And then for whatever reason, I think she had to, and it was no fault of hers. She did a great job on the first script, but there was something that came up, like I think it might've been a network note that necessitated her doing it again in 24 hours. Wow. And she had no complaints. She did it. She basically just did the work twice. And again, she did a great job on both scripts. It had nothing to do with, she's a great writer, and no one was, saying that anything was wrong with it in that respect. But yeah, I mean, so the turnaround time that I was granted was much longer to try to set me up for success. And I think I finished it in like maybe 5 to 7 days or something. And then the extra time that I had been granted, I just read it over and over and over and over and over and over. And I would just go to the office, since I worked at Electric for a long time. So I asked the person that took my job, which is the office manager, I was like, can I use one of the offices there to just come and sit in there and write all day and try to make sure that this is as good as humanly possible, or as good as I can make it. And I would just go in there and then read it over and over, and then revise it, and then read it again, and tried to make it so that, like, my hope was that I turned it in and the feedback was like, this is the best first script we've ever gotten, which is like totally unrealistic. That would happen. That never happens. And that didn't happen to me, but that's not a bad goal.
Yeah, no, it isn't. So I'm going to take it back to Michael, but one more curse you. So there you go.
Yeah, lots of curse you. I mean, did you? I'm sure that one of the crazy things, especially what Jag loves, is you really got to write the first episode that we actually see the Eastern Federation. Mm-hmm. I mean, were there pressures from above or to the side, or that this was going to be really the first time we interact with the Eastern Federation?
that was all pretty spelled out, and also pretty very well mapped out this season, where we're like, okay, we're planting the seeds of the Eastern Federation. When and how are we going to interact with them for the first time? What's it going to be? And early on, I think we were talking about episode 7 and episode 9 being kind of more like the Eastern Federation. I think was we kind of got into like a little bit of an undiscovered country situation, where we were maybe going to do like a false, like an assassination attempt fraud type thing, or, you know, like a framing type thing, which would have been really cool too. But then we kind of split it up into separate episodes, and then it became more about the diplomacy instead of the assassination thing. But all of that was like, yeah, we did the first 4 episodes, I believe. Maybe they became the first 5 episodes. The ones we wrote before the strike, that was like more of a mad dash. And then we tried to, when we came back, we were like, okay, what's the rest? Let's like take a beat and try to figure out what the rest of the season is going to look like, and when we're going to see the Eastern Federation for the first time. What is our, you know, what's going to happen with them, and are we going to make nice with them, or is it going to, you know, what are going to be the consequences and the complications that arise from it? So all that is to say, it was kind of spelled out, where it's like, okay, we're going to meet a captain from the other ship, and his little sleazy right-hand man that's drinking too much of the Kool-Aid. And but I did get to name the captain of the other ship. Captain
cool.
Zip, I was like, I want to give him like a cool spacey name, so I did Zeta Vega, and I was kind of surprised. I was like hoping it was going to pass the smell test, and then no one changed it. And I was like, all right, Zeta Vega.
Zeta Vega. Yeah.
I bet that was satisfying that she said, "Oh, I got." Was that the first character that you've named in an episode?
The first character I've named in like a you know, something that's been on TV.
Some
Yeah.
TV. I should have specified that.
Yeah. Hearing them say, you know, Captain of Vega, it was like, oh, whoa, that is pretty wild. It was just wild.
Suggestion for future Jag is also good. So just
Season 3, get a Jag character.
Yeah, get a Jag character. Yeah.
Kill him off quick. No,
I will. Yeah, I'll hope for season 3, but I'm not going to hope for the Jag. So.
Well, here's a question in the chat room. It's, and hopefully, you know, you're not going to be thrown by it, because you are a writer, not an actor in the show. Even though you're a writer, I must ask, if you were able to choose a character to be on the Ark, who would you choose?
Angus, 100% Angus. The
Nice.
dweeby guy with glasses, I would be able to nail. I am obviously at least a decade older than Ryan, but when season 1 first came on, my family were all like, hey, this Angus guy reminds me of you. You could play this Angus guy. Yeah, that would be nice too. But...
Or stuntable.
Yeah.
That double would be good. Yeah, especially some of the scenes he's had with some people. So, you know. Oh, here's something for Jag. Commander Jag, Captain Garnett want to speak to you.
Oh yes. Oh yeah. I will always bow down to Garnett for sure. That's without a question. I will always relinquish to Garnett. Yeah.
Now, I'm sure you've been asked this before, James, but how did you get involved with Electric Entertainment to begin with? You said you were manager, and I forgot what you said.
Office manager there.
Office manager, yes.
So I worked on I came to Los Angeles in like 2011 or something. It was just kind of hard to believe it's been that long, but I knew since I was in elementary school that I wanted to be a screenwriter, and I knew since I was probably about 19 that I specifically wanted to be a TV writer, after seeing shows like The Sopranos and The Larry Sanders Show, where there's all this rich character development that you just didn't have the time to do in a feature. And I came out to Los Angeles when I was like late 20s. And to echo what JP has said, I wish I came out earlier. But I came out here in my late 20s, and then I interned for film producer David Permit, and I interned for Lionsgate. And it took me a long time to get my first assistant job, which was on this documentary, Living in the Age of Airplanes, where I worked for this director named Brian Terwilliger, who is a great guy. And there was someone else that worked there that had crossed paths with Electric Entertainment. And I think as I was wrapping up, that guy named Carl was like, yeah, those people at Electric are really good people. Maybe you should try to get a job over there. And I ended up getting a job there. The COO hired me as an office PA, which I had already been a director's assistant. So I was like reluctant to take the job. But then I ended up, my boss that I had ended up leaving. He like left Hollywood altogether to be a stay-at-home dad, basically. He was a great guy. And I ended up taking his job as office manager. And I worked there before I did the writer's assistant job for like, I don't know, 6 years or something. And I loved how stable it was. And I loved that it was like not it was a pretty cool job with a lot of cool people work at the company, a lot of friends and stuff. But I used my salary to pay for, I don't know how many different writing classes. And I was always working on new projects, and I could take my dog to the office every day, and he would sit on my couch in my office. And Dean loves golden retrievers, so he never complained. So I was like, yeah, this is a pretty great deal in terms of like trying to develop my talent and hone my craft. And then during the pandemic, we were all working from home, and to Dean's credit of being just an amazing guy, I don't think we lost very many jobs during the pandemic, and including mine. Even though I was, a lot of the times I was going into the office at night, and I would get stuff done that needed to get done. But when we started coming back, I had all this free time to write and work on my projects, and I was like, oh man, this is like really going to be tough for me to go back to doing this. Like maybe it's time for me to move on to the next thing. And the person who originally hired me was Dion McNeff, who was the COO of Electric for a long time, and actually on and off worked for Dean for like 28 to 30 years, starting with Independence Day.
Wow.
Around that time. And she was like, you know what? You seem like you might kind of be done with this job. Maybe you should, we should talk to Dean about having you work on the arc as a writer's assistant. And then she talked to him, and he was like, yeah, of course. And then to Dean's credit, he was like, you know, it's like, I hope James doesn't feel like he can't just come and talk to me himself. Cause basically like he said, like, he can always talk to me, and I'm always going to support him. And so that was pretty much that. And then, so after I was at the company for about 6 years, then I made this jump to the writer's assistant job and I didn't do it immediately, which is in retrospect kind of silly, but I was just like, oh man, this is like a really, really uncertain, sort of like ups and downs and big lapses between jobs and stuff. I was like, am I going to be able to make it out there? And but I asked some mentor type people that have worked in television and TV writers, and they're like, yeah, you idiot, take the job. So then I did. And then, yeah, it was really that first day where I was like, hopefully this works out. But when I went in the first day, and then I met all the other writers on season 1 and heard them start to like pitch, and just heard how freaking smart they were, I was like, oh my God, I would have been a complete idiot to not do this. Like this is going to be like going to college, but getting paid to go to college for writing stuff.
Then it paid off.
That is cool. Marcia, do you have anything?
Sure. Oh, absolutely.
Well, before you
I-
do that, let me just announce, if you're in the chat room and you have a question for James, please throw it in the chat room. And as you saw, we post them. It's been a little quiet there for a minute, which I think they were listening to your story, James. That's probably why. But now I will go to Marcia after I said that. So, Marcia, go right
Thank you. Yeah. So, so James, there are probably quite a few challenging scenes to write in this episode, particularly. You were talking about Angus. The Angus Kelly story was really intriguing. Um, uh, can there be too many Kellys?
As far as I'm concerned, no. I mean, not only because she's the boss's daughter, but also Kelly is one of my favorite characters. And Samantha Glassner, for at least me and my wife, we think she's like among the best on the show. She's so good. Like any scene she's in, we're like so down for it. And you can see her making all these brilliant choices. She's a fantastic actor. Like, I don't want to be unfair and give her too much praise, but she just seems so freaking smart. I've never met her before, but you always see her making all these choices, and she's just so alive in the character. It's like, God, she is good. She's good. And then I tell Jonathan, and then I would tell Jonathan that all the time, but I was like, I don't want him to think I'm like kissing up, but I really do feel that way, where it's like, she's just a really good actor.
The scene between Angus and Kelly, when Angus comes into the med bay, that had a kind of vampire-y, Dracula kind of. I love that. Tell me about how you came to that.
I think I'm pretty sure we beat it out that way in the room. And I don't think anything really changed. I feel like we might have even talked about doing something even more overtly vampire-y and, like a little bit like more gnarly or, more like bloody. It turned out like being very pretty low key compared to some of the options that I feel like were pitched. But I think ultimately it was just like, okay, so we need to create a wound between the two of them to provide a way for the nanites to transport themselves back into Kelly's body, so she's back to 100%, and then she can heal right away. So it's kind of, I think there were some discussions of like, okay, so how is the wound going to be created? Want to do like a vampire's kiss type thing, or like, is he gonna like bite her? And then like, someone else was like, okay, well, they both have to have a wound, so how is that going to happen? And then it turned into this like biting her lip and then biting his own lip. I think might have been like kind of one of the less off the rails. But I still love them getting together, like they're going to kiss, and you're not sure what the heck is going on, and then it becomes clear, like, oh, that's why Angus was sick when he was. It wasn't that he was like not attracted to Alicia or that he was hung up on Kelly, but I think the writers did a really good job of kind of mapping that out so that I can't remember that. I feel like that was probably season 7 or not episode 7 where he throws up, and then you're thinking like, okay, what's the deal? Is this guy like? Is he like still kind of in love with this girl that tried to kill him? So yeah, I mean, but yeah, it was a lot of fun to write that scene. And I watched have you guys seen the newest After the Arc episode?
I have, yes.
My favorite moment in the whole thing was when they show them doing a table read of it, and you see Samantha and Ryan are like,
they're like,
what the heck?
who's this guy that wrote the script?
Yeah, I gotta make that was like that was the highlight for me, where it's like they were like, are we being pranked? Like, this is wild.
Man, they let anybody in the writer's room. No,
yeah. One thing I think is I feel like a lot of the feedback that we've gotten from, and I just saw my mom came into town and her boyfriend came, and he was like, I can't remember who it was. I think it was someone through work had watched seasons 1 and 2. And it's always really exciting when you hear someone in the wild just watching the show. Just like, yeah, I mentioned we were coming out there and this guy said, oh yeah, I've been watching that show. I love that show. And I was like, oh, great. That's great. But I feel like a lot of people are responding to season 2 a lot more because maybe in part, like we had Jonathan and JP who are both brilliant, like 1,000% geniuses. But this season we added Maddie and India, who both worked on these kind of soapy shows. And I feel like season 2 has gotten a little bit soapier in the best kind of way. And I feel like people really love that. I mean, myself included, where I'm just like, oh man, we got like these clone twins. We had clone twins in last season, but like the stuff with Ian and Lane and the Vampire's Kiss stuff is just like, man, this is getting really cool and just like starting to have a little bit of fun with it.
Yeah, it adds layers and depth, and it's sort of like something for everyone.
Yeah.
And you've taken us on a really exciting ride, and I can't wait to see the rest of the season. We've no spoilers, but we are anticipating some more amazing things happening.
Thank you very much. Yeah, and I bless you guys all for being into the show and watching the show and promoting the show. I think it's got to make a difference. I mean, I've seen like limited linear ratings data, but I think that our retention rate is pretty good. I think sometimes shows kind of slope off, but ours seems like it's been pretty consistent. And it was like that. I mean, knock on wood, but season 1 was kind of like that too, where it's like people that like the show just like really like the show. And that's gotta be grateful for that. I mean, that's amazing.
And you feel the passion of fans and the discussion and the memes and the gifts and all that. We are so thrilled that you are participating with us. It really feels like we're together, and I love that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is an important responsibility of the people who are lucky enough to work on these shows. It's like I feel like we owe a lot to the fans, and also it's just kind of part of the job to engage with people and engage in the excitement, especially it's uncommon. Yeah, there are a lot more streaming shows now, and it's kind of like an old-fashioned unique experience to watch a show live and get live feedback, and like live fan discussion is incredible. Like it would be a bummer to miss out on that.
I've got more, but I'll go back to Michael. Come back to me anytime.
I'll come back anytime. Yeah, I'll think about that. Depends what you're going to talk about. Just want to update for our likes on Facebook. Elizabeth Bowman, Olivia Cooper, and one of our previous guests, Milan Kojovic. I'm
cool.
So happy. So he's probably might be watching, or he at least just wanted to say like hi to you with
nice.
So he was a great. He told a lot about some episodes too that he was directing. That was like cool stuff. Let's see. Okay. Elizabeth Bowman says the dialogue in this episode brought back some of the snap from season 1. What were the easiest conversations to write in the episode, and what were the hardest?
The easiest one, and thank you for your question. The easiest ones are the jokes. As you notice on my Twitter, when I'm live tweeting the episodes, the easiest stuff to type, rattle off as the funny, goofy stuff. And the harder stuff is, a very big scene is the trolley problem scene, and talking about the biological weapon that was developed and all that, and making sure that all the characters within that scene are serviced. There's a lot of data being downloaded to the audience in that scene, and it's tricky balance. You have to kind of break it up so there's not trust doing this endless monologue, and also kind of cutting between the drama of the scene and seeing how Lane is processing it. That was like a big long scene, and also a big scene where it's like trying to juggle between doing this kind of elaborate exposition, but also making sure that we're kind of like hearing from everybody and getting their perspective on things, and what's Trust's perspective on this. Like, he thinks that the devil's arithmetic makes sense, but then Lane is like horrified, but also viewing it through the lens of his dad being involved with all of this, and then like how that relates to Ava, who's in the room. It's just that scene was like, that was a bigger scene, and Jonathan helped a lot with that. And definitely another big one was the organ donor scene, or Ian recommending the organ donor, or donating. Maybe I should avoid spoilers. Maybe I'll avoid spoilers. No, it doesn't matter.
No.
Okay.
No, I'll put back up our warning again. So if people have not seen 9 and they do not want to, get whatever, here we go, everyone. Spoilers. We're going to talk about episode 9. So.
Yeah, the way that the way that scene was a tricky scene for sure, and again, had some help from the boss on that one. But to me, the easiest stuff is like the jokey stuff, or the goofy stuff, or kind of the simpler twofer scenes. I love the scene between, and I can say this because it was another, like, Jonathan kind of pitched the scene between Ian and Lane and Bryce in the writer's room.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And he basically did the whole scene. And as you know, Jonathan is like a really unassuming kind of like monotone guy, or he's like not like a big showman, but he will just like be like, okay, I got it. Bryce comes in, are we all right? And he did the whole scene. But when he did that for me, I like was about to start crying in the writer's room. And he just like brings stuff to life immediately, where you see it right away. And another one of his pitches that he did, slight tangent away from this question, but another pitch he did was Kelly with the bomb in her head in the shuttle, where it's like, Kelly says, no, I'm not coming back there, mother. Goodbye, or whatever she says. And then Evelyn Maddox says, okay, very well then. And then the transmission cuts off, and inside Kelly's head, we hear beep, 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 beep. And we're all like, oh my God, that is so cool. But the one scene that was, I guess to answer the question, and I feel like my answers are like way too long and rambling.
Oh, they're too short. No, they're too short.
Oh, you need to work on that. It's too short.
Yeah.
But every scene has unique challenges, and some scenes are inexplicably really easy and come out right away, and some scenes take a little bit more work. And I think that could be like highly individual, and also just kind of, there's some stuff that really resonates with you that you really respond to. And it definitely helped writing the scene between Bryce and Lane, where it's like, I already loved that scene. Like, I was excited to write the episode just for that scene. And I was excited to write the episode because it meant I was going to get to do the scene between Ian and Lane, where Lane finds out that he was taken from the lab, and kind of finish off his like clone hating, self-loathing arc in a really I mean, that scene is so. I mean, thinking of like where Lane was in season 1, being like, as JP Nickel would call him, Mr. Poopy Pants, to to season 2 Lane finding out that he was a clone, he was supposed to be an organ donor, and that everything he was told by his parents was a lie, is amazing to me. Like how far that character, or how much he developed over time, and as Reset in the after show, it's just in these layers where like there's a little bit more warmth and a little bit more loyalty, and then getting into some of the stuff that he's gone through this season has been really rewarding to see. I mean, as a fan of the show myself.
And then you killed him off.
What's that?
And then you killed him off. I said.
Yeah.
Just boom. And Marcia was upset.
Oh, just a little, but you know, I've watched the episode 3 times now, so
Wow.
I'm coming to terms with it. Each time I watch it, I see it a little differently. The scene with Bryce and Lane, I saw much differently once I knew the end, and when I watched it again, it hit me so differently. The subtlety and the poignancy of that scene was like, oh.
It's I mean, and that scene is really, especially when you know where it's going, it's like a goodbye. And oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, and then when Lane's last word is Sharon, and I didn't notice that the first time, but on the second time I thought, well, that's pretty powerful. That was really powerful. And I think that not knowing what's happening next, I'm thinking that that's going to resonate somewhere inside of her heart for a long time. And thank you again for writing those things. Thinking about Garnett and her desperation, the scene where she's desperately going to Marsh and she's going to Kabir, and she's saying, well, what do you mean there's nothing you can do? And maybe if you switch roles, and maybe if you turn around 3 times and
rub your stomach and
yeah,
pat your head.
That was incredible to do. And what do you, and her Christy Burke in that scene was heartrending.
Yeah, it's one thing that she said that I thought was interesting in her interview on the after show is how she was playing it like Lane was the love of her life, and she's sort of and I saw this in some of the comments on either Twitter or Reddit, where they were like, a lot of fans said, and I think my brother texted me this. You just watched the episode and he told me this. He was like, said it was tough and heartbreaking to watch Garnet, who's been such a like tough leader, kind of completely unravel in this episode. And she's like never really exposed too many holes in her armor. And then this episode, she's just like so raw. And watching it through that lens, it's like, oh man, she's like, and yeah, also Christy can't even, it's wild to me, but she's so attached to the character of Lane that she can't even talk about it without crying. I mean,
yes, that was incredibly moving. To I want to get your thoughts on an aspect of the show which didn't actually appear in this episode. But I'm curious, without any spoilers or anything. We have a thread in our fan group about the Juno project.
Thank you for coming, James. I appreciate it.
They know I'm going to bring this up because and it's, it seems to be attached emotionally, but when you look at it, it's not emotional. Should it be emotional at all? It's like petri dishes. It's DNA. So
Mhm.
what are your, if you might give us some of your thoughts on that?
Oh, my
and
thoughts on
no
No
eugenics.
spoilers.
no
Mhm.
nothing. So
You're asking me if I think eugenics are good?
I think that's what
Well,
she's asking, and it has nothing to do with the show.
well, the human race must go forward, right?
I mean, I think the Juno project is really interesting because um, in the context of building a population from scratch and colonizing, there is kind of an argument for like how do we set this population up for success and also genetically diversify. I mean, that's like certainly a consideration when you're talking about like very small populations, like very small communities and stuff. But yeah, I mean, also Marcia just no.
Sorry.
Save me, James, save me.
Yeah, I mean that's part of why we started to explore it though, is because there is the trust argument when you have. I think that I can't remember what the total head count is of their community, but I think it's like around 150 or
It was 150. That's what they said.
Yeah.
And with such a small group of people where you're hoping to colonize and expand and build a population, there is the scientific argument, but then there's also just the argument of like, who's the best person for you? Like, and what's, what is the responsibility of the people that are part of this new community that they're trying to cultivate? And could there be some kind of compartmentalization between the two things? I am a hopeless romantic, and I think that those things are not mutually exclusive. And yeah, it's really hard to find somebody that you just like and are attracted to. So I like gave me a clipboard and it was like, your perfect match is so and so in accounting. I would be like, okay, well then I guess I'm not going to reproduce then, because
Yeah, stand to look at him.
yeah.
Jag, get us back to reality, please.
Yeah. So another curse you, and then
Not you, James.
no, his is a curse you. I'm going to curse him.
Oh,
yeah.
oh, you are? Oh,
Yeah. He gets a curse. He's going to get
cursing.
grilled for what he did to us in this season or this episode. Before I continue and before I forget, who are your role models in writing?
I mean, it's a good question. I mean, I guess I was more influenced by certain TV shows than specific writers, but all the best shows, like The Sopranos, probably the best TV show of all time, the best characters of all time. I love the best episodes of Next Generation. I love Breaking Bad. Better Call Saul had an amazing writing team. I mean, just where it's like, how are these people so smart? And then I also like comedy a lot too, but kind of have pivoted into the drama writing world. But yeah, I mean, shows like The Office and another show that I really loved that's kind of recent. Well, I love Dark Matter for one.
Right.
Brilliant. Severance, so good. And I also love Pin 15, which is like not at all the same genre, but I love Pin 15. It was a really heartbreaking, like bittersweet. Really hit me because they were like, I think they were a little bit younger than I was at that age, but still, it's like I haven't seen. I think we're going to start seeing a lot more stuff that's set in like 2000, 2002 ish. Like the movie came out recently. The name is eluding me, but it was about that time period. But yeah, seeing something set in that time frame is really cool. But of course, like the heavy hitters filmmaking wise, like the first screenwriters that really inspired me, obviously like Back to the Future. So like Bob Gale, Robert Zemeckis, and then Steven Spielberg through his 80s, like sort of sci-fi fantasy, sci-fi comedy kick, doing stuff like Gremlins and Goonies and E.T., obviously, all that stuff that's like kind of sweet, kind of goofy, and fantastical. So yeah, I mean, a lot of different influences, but just basically like good writing. And if anything resonates, there's so many, over time, someone kind of becomes a reflection of all the different things that have resonated with them throughout their lives. And that could be personal experience or pieces of, film that they've seen. Probably two of the biggest, I guess, like formative movies that I've seen are probably the first Back to the Future, which still kind of has an emotional or a personal impact on me, because it has this sort of moral about standing up for yourself and believing in yourself, and it's a very empowering movie. So that's like an important movie to me that I really think about all the time, because you have this brilliant character that's like the surrogate in this projection of what your life can be if you don't advocate for yourself, George McFly, and you see him before and after he stands up for himself. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is like, that's kind of like the most in it, it's not like heavy handed and it's not really dramatic, but it's like my entire life I've been motivated to not be like George McFly. I want to be the version of George McFly that is a best-selling sci-fi novelist and not doing Biff's homework.
Right.
But another movie that was really influential to me was Defending Your Life, which was written and directed by Albert Brooks, where his entire life, the premise of the movie, for anyone that's watching this that hasn't seen it, at the beginning of the movie, he dies, and then his life is under review, and it's basically being judged and evaluated, not for heaven or hell, but to like move on to a higher plane of existence. But his entire life, he's been held back by fear, and it prevented him from being successful and maybe finding love the way that he wanted to. And it's just like, it's such a hilarious movie, but it's really profound and really moving and powerful. And that's another movie I think about all the time, because everybody struggles with fear, being held back. And I find that the movies that have stuck with me the most are movies like that are kind of parables or like almost like a fable, that have this moral message. And of course, like the Rocky movies. I love the Rocky movies so much, and I love Sylvester Stallone as Rocky, and he's a really good director, and he's really good at writing Rocky movies. But yeah, I mean, those are those sort of aspirational figures, or those like aspirational stories that empower the audience and empower the movies that were really popular and affected a lot of people because of the popularity of their films. And to me, that's like art at its highest form, at its very best, is where it's like somebody could walk out of the movie theater or finish watching a TV show, and they take this message with them and they say, I might make some different choices with my life, and not from like a moral stance, but just like how can I be the best version of myself? And maybe I should have a little bit more confidence in myself, or maybe I should, do something that I'm afraid of doing because I'm afraid of failure or whatever. Like that is like, you're kind of doing a public, like those filmmakers, of course they made a bunch of money and they were doing it as a job, but also kind of like did a public service to who knows how many different people were moved by those films. And that's very Pollyannish of me, but yeah, I mean, I think that's a very admirable thing to put out into the world.
Well, it's funny because I think you just described a parallel of this season of the Ark, because we've seen so many of the human psyche and human conditioning based on mental, how we treat the clones, how we treat others.
Yeah.
I think that's been a parallel. It's amazing that that influenced, or at least potentially unintentionally influenced, the move of the show this season. Matter of fact, you mentioned earlier with the new writers, they were soap opera-y and everything else. I think that's what we needed in season 2, because
Yeah.
basically in season 1, as Dean called it, it was a disaster of the week kind of thing. And now we've now become, it's like, it's a grown up version of the arc. And now we're seeing the fleshing out of all the characters. And again, you get another curse you. But what I also wanted to ask was, so this is going to be kind of a point of view of the writing. So in different professions, you have, like, for police, it's, protect and serve. And in pilots, when they're flying, it's aviate, navigate, and communicate. That's their tenet. So is it in the writing room, or in writers in general, is it create a character, create a show, and then rip the fans' hearts out somewhere in? Is that the tenet for the writers? I just want to know.
I think that I mean, if one thing that came up, and I don't think I'm talking out of school, because Jonathan talked about it in the after the arc interview, was we were kind of having a hard time with Lane after he kind of became such a good guy.
Yeah.
And he provided so much conflict, and in the first season, and then in season 2, we came up with some good stuff for him, but I think it became a little bit more challenging because we were like, what are we going to do with this guy? He's like such a nice guy now. We kind of made him pretty more agreeable, and kind of less of a source of story. So I think that when the writers' room came up with this arc for him, meeting Ian and learning about who he was and coming to terms with that, and then somebody who I will not name, that was not me, pitch Lane dying, I think the initial reaction was like, that's crazy. And then there was probably a beat, and then well, maybe this could actually be the best resolution for his character. And kind of, I mean, the way that the audience has responded to it too, it's definitely, to me, I've seen much more positive than negative, even though I have seen some Twitter replies where it's like, one of my tweets, I was like, yeah, we originally didn't plan for, him to donate his organs in this way, and that to be paid off in such a beautifully poetic way. And someone replied to my tweet that was like, it wasn't poetic. What a wasted death. We want Lane back. And I was like, okay, so some people are not happy.
That was me. I'm kidding.
I think overall people are like, wow, that was, they're even more invested in the show. And I think it's because we probably utilized Lane perfectly. I mean, because if he was an ineffective character, or if we had drawn out his presence in the show longer than we should have, and then he died, they wouldn't have the impact that it has had. But people were just like,
no, I mean, it was a beautifully written, and I think a timely written episode. And if the end result was to evoke an emotion of some sort from the fans, I think that was just the pinnacle of where the writing has been this season. Is just to really involve the fans and get them to the point where, you're right, nobody would have cared if he died in season 1, because he was a Lieutenant Poopy Pants, as we effectively call him, right?
Yeah.
But now
we said yesterday too on his.
Yeah, but now, because we've grown to see how he changed and everything else, but it's still heart-wrenching. I think we're going to do one more round, but go ahead, Michael.
Well, I was just going to say, you kind of answered my question, but it got me even. I'm going to change it a little. I was going to ask, what your favorite movies and things were, and you went through all that. But do you have a favorite genre? Because you are all over the place
Yes,
with what
sir.
you like. And so
Yeah.
I'm not even sure you can even answer it just saying one, because I mean, of all the different things that you like.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of, I really like pulpy drama. So like shows like Breaking Bad are fantastic, or kind of the more like guilty pleasure stuff. Like I really enjoyed Doctor Death, which is like just uh, pulpy is probably the best adjective to use for it. But also I like great sci-fi. I mean, I love really to me, um, as far as sci-fi goes, it doesn't get much better than those best episodes of Next Generation, where it's
Right.
like, oh my gosh, the um, this is what the genre is really capable of. Exploring these big philosophical ideas and uh, asking some really profound questions about humanity and what we're capable of, the best and the worst of it. I would say that, like, yeah, I mean, in terms of my varied um, genre preferences, I do love when it all comes together. Like, and I think maybe the best example of everything that I love coming together is RoboCop, where it's like social satire, sci-fi. It's a story about corporate America, and it's also this like wonderful Western, a neo-Western, and a story about this, sort of how, I mean, it's just as like it's just as it resonates with me as much today as it did when it came out. What? Oh my gosh, like 37 years ago, is that right?
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
a character that
Think
becomes
so.
less human because of technology, loses his humanity because of corporate America, takes it away and takes ownership over him, takes the autonomy of his body and thought and mind. Oh my God. How it's like 2024 stuff. And then he has to find his agency again. I mean, but it's also a comedy. It's also like the most ridiculous movie you've ever seen. So
Yeah.
it's like very powerful, but also totally zany and camp and weird. And um, RoboCop's a pretty good example of like a confluence of all the things I love coming together.
Good.
And we just got a like a little bit ago from Justin Beard on Facebook. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Oh, nice.
And do you know who that is?
Yeah, we worked. Justin and I was at. So Justin is an old friend of mine, and we worked together when I worked in a cell phone store for several years. It's many, like 15, 20 years ago. And yeah, he's the best. He's an amazing guy. So if he's watching, thanks for watching this.
Yeah, Elizabeth Cooper wants a thing. The original RoboCop or the remake?
So I am I think I'm in the minority where I didn't think the remake was that bad because it was different. But yeah, I mean the original any day. The original was a masterpiece, and the story behind the making of the original RoboCop is really interesting. That there's this great documentary, which is probably only for like super fans, but called RoboDoc, that came out on a Scream, and it's 4 hours long. And it felt like it was not long enough to me. Whereas like just talked about every intricacy of making the movie and kind of how like it was a terrible production for everyone to work on it. It's kind of crazy. You see movies like that where it's like RoboCop was like a nightmare to work on. Everyone was miserable. It was really hot. But then the movie, you're like, yeah, this is a great time. And it's, everything works. Or like Wizard of Oz, where everyone was just completely like abused and terrorized the entire movie. But then it's like one of the most lovely movies to watch where you're like, oh my gosh, the Wicked Witch of the West got like second or third degree burns when she was doing the stunt where she comes out of the.
I read that the other day and I was like, I had no idea. It's like, oh my.
Yeah, I mean, there were like multiple people hospitalized during the making of The Wizard of Oz, and old Hollywood, producers calling him up in the hospital and being like, when are you going to get your butt back to set? It's like, oh my gosh, like people would be so terrified of getting sued now, which is good.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
calling the Wicked Witch of the West, when are you going to be back on set? And she was in the hospital for like 3 weeks because she was so injured. And the actor that was originally supposed to play the Tin Man, who I think ended up playing the Scarecrow, they used this lead-based
Oh yeah.
paint on him.
Yeah,
And then,
that messed him up. Yeah.
yeah, I think he like went home that night and collapsed. And his wife was like, I think he could have easily died. And I think they changed the formulation of the paint after that. But it's like amazing movie, terrible experience for everyone involved, probably. I mean, maybe the reason that Judy Garland, like, who knows what all she went through when she was making that movie, but it seems like she was like not in good shape.
No, and this is a follow-up from Elizabeth. Nice to find a fellow person who has seen RoboDoc.
Nice. Good. Yeah. Great minds.
Yeah, great minds think alike. Now, I'm going to go. This is going to be our final round through because we are going to quit in about 5 to 10 minutes. So if you do have a question, I will try to get to it before we have to sign off. But Marcia, one question, and Jag, you're going to get that fun last question.
Well, I want to talk about your penchant for older technology that you expressed on your, and I saw this morning your opening scene to Earworm the Musical.
Oh boy.
and I noticed the scene that you set, and I guess that was set for the musical, or is that stuff that you normally keep around?
Oh yeah. I'm very into old tech. I'm sitting, I mean, I don't know if I can turn the camera and show you, but I actually wrote my last 2 pilots on this. Here, let's see.
Look at this guy.
So that's my
Oh my
there we
gosh.
go.
Macintosh Plus, which actually still works. And I wrote my last 2, not like the scripts, but I wrote the outlines and the scriptments on this machine. So this is a working machine. And actually I bought this desk so that I have an Apple IIe as well, which is like the old black screen and the green text. And I like to write on that as well, like a very stripped down experience. But yeah, I love vintage tech, vintage computers and stuff. For me, I guess it reminds me of my childhood a little bit, but also I just love to write on a machine where it's like all I can do on this machine is just write a document and also figure out how to transfer the document to a modern computer.
Yes.
That must be fun. Well, I have a Macintosh Plus in my room.
Really? You do?
Yes, I do.
Cool.
I when I saw that, I was like, we're instantly there's a connection, and I can't get rid of it. I have the little of the disc that you put in that holds it in place, so when you move it, it doesn't get messed up. So I have all the colored discs, and so yeah, I thought that was super cool. So thank you.
Do you ever use it?
I don't lately, but see, now you got me thinking again that it's here. I've got all the plugs and everything. Plus, I have 2 Betamaxes.
Whoa.
So
Cool.
yeah, you're stirring something old and new again in me. So thank you for that this morning. I'll get back to you on that.
Yeah, it's a very I mean, there's something about it that's like the tactile experience of like writing on a computer that I wrote on in elementary school. I mean, you probably saw I posted a scan of this story I wrote when I was 8 years old, which was I was like, should I do this? This is kind of embarrassing and cheesy, but I remember writing on my old IBM PS1, and I'll probably buy an IBM PS1 at some point, but eBay is like, some people are just nuts and think, oh, I could charge like way too much for what is essentially junk, except to like one guy named James DeLorean. But yeah, I love the experience of it. Takes me back to like when I was a kid and I was just like I remember my imagination was just like through the roof, totally unchanged or unchained and untethered, and just like
Mhm.
pure. And it kind of it gives me
Mhm.
like a little taste of that like purity before I
Mhm.
was before we all become our worst critics. When you're a kid, you're just like,
Mhm.
yeah, I'm gonna like write stories. I'm gonna be the next Stephen King. I'm gonna do this and that. And yeah, when you fire up one of those old machines, you're like, yeah, this is
Mhm.
like a little bit how I remember it being.
Mhm. And they weigh a ton, so you got to be really dedicated to want to be on that.
Yeah, my sadly this one well, the computer is fine, but at some point
Mhm.
and you probably noticed there's a coffee cup sitting right next to it. At some
Yes.
point, I would never spill on my 40-year-old computer, but my wife spilled coffee on the keyboard, and
Oh,
I just
Uh-oh.
replaced the keyboard. But there are a few keys where I need to I need to solder in some 3 new key switches and get it working.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
yeah,
Super. Mac forever. Yay.
yeah,
Thank you,
yeah.
Jack.
Jack.
okay. So you get one more curse you because we're coming up late. And then just a quick comment, and then my final question is just keep doing what you're doing, Duddy. And considering this was your first venture, what a way to make a splash.
Thank you.
Just to get
Yeah.
everybody involved and everything. Also, I want to commend you with how you, especially on X with the live tweeting, so much fun to watch the show with you guys doing your live tweets and putting up the gifs and your funny little quips and behind the scenes. That just adds more to the experience. So,
Mhm.
just want to thank you and JP and everybody else that joins. Dean as well. Thank you very much for doing what you've been doing with getting everybody involved, because I think that really adds to just the whole experience of viewing it. So I'm now
Thank
going to
you.
come to my famous question, and here we go.
He knows
Here
what
we
it
go.
is.
Yeah, he probably knows because we ask this often. So if Mr. Devlin or Mr. Jonathan Glasner were to gift you an arc, what number or symbol or
Oh yeah.
letter or yeah. So what number, symbol or letter would you like to be on that arc?
Probably 85.
Okay.
Probably 85. Um, because that's I was born in 84, but 1985, obviously, Back to the Future uh, reference. So I would probably stick with that. Yeah, that
Okay.
would be mine.
It has been so interesting to see the different people and their choices of, something that's a lucky number, as a birthday, or some reference of when they grew up. Reese is probably one of our favorites at the moment, although 85 is great. His is a McDonald's symbol. So,
That is great. Well, if we're talking about like picture symbols, huh? I wonder if yeah, maybe I'd just stick with 85. There's got to be.
okay.
I bet there's something. If we were into symbols or logos, I bet I could come up with something that was really cool. But
By the way, whoever, just for fun, whoever's watching, whoever came up with the Eastern Federation with a hand thing, that's awesome.
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
My,
that was cool.
when we screened it the other night, at Vidiots, my wife was like, "I never noticed that fist thing before." The Eastern Federation. Yeah.
Real quick, a follow up. So, how was that screening with your family? How did your mom like it, and your family,
Oh
or
yeah,
did they
yeah.
disown you, or
Yeah, they disowned me. No, it was very nice. Yeah, my mom and her boyfriend Jeff came into town, and my brother and his husband came into town, and it was them and some friends from the office and a couple of buddies, and it was pretty small. And one person who JP has been super duper busy this week, and he's like been juggling a lot, and but he kind of like went way out of his way to come to the screening, even though he had like way too much going on, because that's the type of guy he is. He wanted to be there. And Jenny, his wife, who's like the best, was like, JP, you gotta go. And yeah, JP made it, and that was like a gas for my family to meet him. Like any person that was like remotely Hollywood related, my mom is like, oh my gosh, we met the projectionist from Vidiots. He met Elizabeth Berkley. Or, or I think that's Susan Showgirls, right? I think
Right.
so. But yeah, she's my mom is so desperate to meet anyone that's like had any sort of celebrity interaction. Any
Love
hearing
it.
about anything is a thrill to her. But yeah, it went great. I mean, it's I was glad that we did the screening because my mom was staying at a hotel, and so we did the live tweet in the hotel. It was me, my mom, and her boyfriend, and my wife Sam. And the hotel Wi-Fi started to we missed all of Lane getting stabbed, and we
that's
came
horrid.
back. They were like, "What happened?" And it's like, "Oh my god, this, like the biggest thing happened." And, so we got like a do-over the following night, which was good. But yeah, my family was like really excited about it, and also just like really supportive. You know, like, "Oh, we got to go to dinner. We're so proud of you." Blah blah. And I think that because they know that I've been doing this for a long time, or I've been like trying to make it happen for a long time, and you never make it. You never make it. There are people that like they like write some huge movie that makes $1 gazillion. They're like literally cases of this where it's like some huge writer wrote like a high profile movie, and then he was like sleeping in his car like a couple of years later. So it's
Right.
there's never anything that's like certain at all. But yeah, I mean they've seen me like chip away, and then to get any kind of win is which no one is entitled to. It's like all luck and a blessing, and I certainly didn't feel that I had any like stake. I did all the work that I had in my power to do, but to get an opportunity was a blessing and just luck, really. And so it was exciting for them, and I think they were just like excited to see that there was a time where it worked. And yeah, I mean, the hearing your reaction, and also again, it's like we participate in the live tweets and stuff. Especially JP was like very excited about being able to live tweet with a show that was screening on, actually airing on television as opposed to just a streaming service. He was like, we never know when we're going to get to do this again. Like, we never know when we're going to, you know, God willing, we get a third season, but you know, it's very uncommon to be on a show where you get to experience it in real time with this, with the fans like this. And I know that JP feels the same way, and a lot of the people that work on the show. I mean, Dean, for someone that created a show to get on Twitter pretty much every week and to be liking tweets from fans and engaging with them is
Oh yeah. Mhm.
Incredible.
Amazing.
Dean, yeah, I mean, he's a great guy, and he feels a tremendous responsibility, but Dean is also a genius, and I think he might have created the first website for a feature film with
He
Independence
did.
Day.
He did,
And-
yeah.
Yep,
With
Stargate.
Stargate, 1994. Yes.
Oh, cool.
Yep.
Well, he's yeah, he understands how important it is to utilize social media and to interact with the fans in real time. And certainly with JP and I especially, but we've roped the other writers into it. We love to try to make it a treat for people that are watching it as sort of like not like a special feature on a DVD, but like something that would enhance the viewing experience, and you know, give people a little bit of insight into how we came about certain decisions, or just, yeah, I mean, make it a little bit more of a treat where it's like you don't only get the show, but you also get to follow along with us, which is and it's a treat for us. I mean, truly, it's like the highlight of my week every week that we get to live tweet one of the episodes, like seeing everyone's reaction and getting, you know, hopefully like helping people laugh and getting them excited and stuff. I mean, it's like it's just as much of a thrill for us, 100%.
Well, just before I bring it back to Michael, a couple of final comments is you are definitely a very humble person. You are definitely more talented than you probably think you are. We as a fans recognize it, and we're just very fortunate that you were the one that helped write some of the episodes and help guide the season 2. So pat yourself on the back a little bit. You still get one more curse you, and then.
Thank
But
you
I'll
very
take
much.
it back to Michael, and I look forward to our live tweets for the rest of the season.
Of course, yeah.
Cool. Elizabeth Cooper says, thank you so much for spending time with us. I look forward to seeing your next episode of The Ark, of which I'm certain there will be many more to come.
Yes, we hope so.
Cross your fingers. And,
Sci-fi, we want to renew. Sci-fi, we
6
want to
seasons, 6 seasons in a movie.
Oh my gosh.
that
From
would
your
be-
lips to God's ears. That would be amazing. I mean, that would be.
I think 2 movies would be better personally after the 6th season, but that's a whole other thing. But I just want to officially, we've talked about it with JP, we've talked about it with India. We would really like to do an end.
I am
of
so
the
game
season.
for that.
All right.
Oh, so you
He already knows. He
You
already
already
knows.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm
It's like, yes,
officially
I want to
going
do it. I want to do it.
Yeah.
I'm going to tentatively schedule it in about 2 weeks.
Cool.
When I'm going to tell you when it's going to be, and I'll send you all a message, and hopefully as many as you can come. I'm actually going to invite Jonathan to come too. I'm hoping he can come. I think he's got the craziest schedule of anybody, but we will see. Yeah, we will see.
Always, we always love getting together. I mean, we got really close this season, and it's always a blast hanging out with all the others. I mean, it's great. Especially if you do it in how many weeks we have left. Would that be like right before the finale? Or?
Well, I'm going to schedule stuff after ElectricCon.
Oh, yeah.
So it'll be after ElectricCon, and then also the people that are watching it on Peacock, they will have that extra week to be able to see it. So then that's when ElectricCon was hitting. I said, no, we're going to do it after ElectricCon when, it's a little quieter for people at Electric. So
yeah.
And plus, we're not giving, because usually those are recaps for the entire season. So that way the NDAs are off, and everything
which is
We
wonderful.
can talk about anything.
Yeah.
Except for season 6 and the 2 movies, right?
No. Wait. We said 10 today, or somebody said 10 or something.
Well, somebody else slipped and said 10. I slipped and said 6 or 5, and then you slipped and said 3 or 4. So instead of
we're adding those up
season,
together. It's like 36
really
seasons now. So
We just want more.
yeah,
we just want more. We just want more. But James, on behalf of everyone at NDV Media and Talented Universe, thank you very much for coming. I hope you have enjoyed it as much as we have. So.
Oh yeah,
Real
absolutely.
quick,
It's a blast.
Michael, last comment. We want to put that one last one.
Yeah, I didn't know that popped up right at the last minute.
There you go. I don't know if you know that.
Brenda
too.
Bailey.
That's my cousin Brenda.
Oh,
Aw.
I'm so
Brenda.
proud of you. You deserve lots of success. And Brenda, I wish you'd give us some inside information, earlier in the broadcast.
Yeah.
We've done that. We've had.
This is
we
your
really,
life.
we really killed Stacy that one time when we brought
that's
her.
right, with a drama teacher.
We brought her high school drama teacher on with her.
Yeah,
Really?
That would've been good.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was like a little reunion for them.
Yeah, we do crazy things sometimes.
Yeah, Brenda is my cousin, and when I posted about the show, I was thrilled and surprised that she has just been watching the show, and she didn't know that I was working on the show.
Oh wow!
And it sounds like she's up to date and maybe watching it on Peacock. And she was like, "We've been watching the show, so this will be extra exciting to find out that you wrote one of the episodes when we watched that one." So I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's amazing!" So yeah,
it makes you feel good when it's friends that are watching it you didn't even know. So
yeah. Very good news. And I'm sorry, Brenda, if we spoiled this episode for you before you watched it.
Hope not.
Well, hopefully she saw it, but it's like she'll go, really? But then again, she might have gotten the insights, so she doesn't have to watch it 3, 4, 5 times like we do to get everything out of it. She'll get the little snippets with what Marcia said, and she'll go, yeah, and I need to watch this really carefully. Boom, boom, boom. So anyway, but we have gone over. But again, thank you, James, for coming. Everyone, thank you for attending. We will see you next time. I will be posting. I think we've got 4 people from the Ark next weekend.
Cool.
And so I will be posting that on the groups and on the Talented Universe page. I'll put those out a couple of days before. But if you do join one of the ARC fan groups, or ARC fan group, ARC series fan group on Facebook, I post all of things on there. And I also do once a week, I post what's coming up the next weekend. So,
and then I'll probably post on X.
And he'll post on X.
And X and everything else.
So it's like lots of things coming. And I think it is. I think it's next weekend. We have Ms. Maddox.
Yeah.
Whoa, cool.
Yeah. So that's going to be exciting. We're going to talk to her about all those fun things she did in season 1 at the beginning of season 2. Oh,
why are you so bad? Why are you such a bad person on the show?
Maybe because of Kelly. I don't know. We're going to ask her that. But anyway, everyone, that's enough. Talk to you next weekend with all of our other art guests. Thank you very much, everyone. Goodbye.
Yeah, thank you for all that you do. Thank you for being fans of the show. We appreciate it so much.
Yeah, we enjoy it. Bye-bye.
Bye.